Hey guys, what's going on? It's your boy, the Mad Collector, and back here today, guys, with part 3 of my ongoing TV and movie favourites discussion videos, list, whatever you want to call them. And up here today, we have live action TV shows. So anything live action is, obviously, when I say live action, I mean like with real actors, obviously. Real people, not animated stuff. There is a bit of a mix here. Obviously, there are some British comedies and some American stuff, and a few like more teenage year stuff. Again, like I said, these are things from my childhood. Growing up, I actually spent a lot of time with my nan and granddad and my aunt, and obviously I actually watched a lot of older TV shows, British comedy. Being British, of course, some of the best comedy of all time, I feel like, is some of the like 70s and 80s and early 90s BBC comedies. And I fell in love with a bunch of them. And we're going to start with the English comedies first. I do have a few one American comedy show, a couple of like more teenage, younger kid stuff, and then a few just some crazy stuff as well. I have watched some pretty good shows recently. I did enjoy American Horror Story. I've seen all 9 seasons. It was a really good show. But normally when I watch live action TV shows, I prefer to just watch comedy stuff, just stuff that I can just chill at. I'm not really big into dramas or into horror dramas. I prefer those sort of things to just be a one-time thing, like a movie or stuff. I did enjoy The Witcher. I did really like The Witcher. I'm looking forward to season 2 when they finally do it. There are some shows that have been recommended, like Game of Thrones and obviously The Mandalorian. There are a bunch of shows out there that I still need to watch, and there's hundreds and hundreds of live action TV shows out there, so I'm sure I'll find a few as we go on. But the first show I want to talk about, in my opinion, could be the best British comedy, if not the best comedy of all time, and that is Only Fools and Horses. I absolutely love Only Fools and Horses. I watched it growing up. I used to have the videotapes on with my aunt. I used to watch them all the time. I watch them at home sometimes with my dad and my brothers. It is, if you're British and you haven't watched Only Fools and Horses, you kind of looked at like you looked at like funny, or if you're one of these people that don't like Only Fools and Horses, what's wrong with you, man? It is a show that a lot of people who are like from America and stuff probably will watch and think, what's so funny? But that's what I loved about Only Fools and Horses. It is a show obviously based on Del Boy and Rodney, David Jason and Nicholas Lyndhurst, and then obviously Uncle Albert and Grandad through some of the seasons. And it's quite a simple concept of just two guys trying to make it through their life, going through all of these wacky schemes. Well, not really wacky. Del Boy's always getting like hooky gear, which means stolen, and trying to sell it on the market. And there's always something that goes wrong. It's a it starts off like a really comedic show, and then in the later seasons gets into some really deep stuff, and it does start to bring the drama into the show as they get older and more wiser, I guess. And that's what I really liked about Only Fools and Horses, is that although I have fond memories of like individual episodes as a kid, when you sit there and watch the whole show through, like I did recently, just realise how in-depth it really gets, and some of the stuff that they have to deal with. There was a miscarriage episode, people dying in the show. It is a very in-depth show, and it gets really deep at some time. I could dedicate a whole video to Only Fools and Horses. The next show is a little bit more wacky, a little bit more not as in-depth, but that is Fawlty Towers. Of course, John Cleese from the Monty Python. I was told that the Monty Python writers helped work on Fawlty Towers. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's what my mate said. So Ryan, if you're listening, if you're right, you're right. If you're wrong, you're wrong. I ain't arguing. But Fawlty Towers was a simple concept, because the thing is, a lot of these older BBC comedies only had like 13, 14, sometimes only 10 episodes, even less for some shows. But the thing is, that wasn't a bad thing because it made the show so memorable. Only Fools and Horses had like 69, 62 episodes, like 70 or so, give or take. But Fawlty Towers was just a simple concept of this guy trying to run a hotel, and obviously he has his wife there, and then obviously Manuel, well, I'd say the waiter, but he's a bit of everything. And it's all, each episode is its own thing. You don't need to have seen any of the other episodes to really know the show. That's what I loved about it. It's just such a funny show. John Cleese was an excellent choice for the main character. He played Mr. Fawlty excellently. It's full of one-liners, full of memorable moments. The whole Hitler walk thing, obviously, I know I shouldn't really be doing that on YouTube, but it's from the show. But yeah, that was one of the most memorable things. It is kind of offensive by today's standards, but you know what? I'm sick and tired of these people getting offended by old stuff. Get over it. But yeah, Fawlty Towers is probably my second, maybe second or third favourite British comedy. The next one is Blackadder. Blackadder is, you know what? I always put that show on every night. Blackadder is basically Rowan Atkinson. And basically it had 4 seasons. There were a few specials. I don't think I've ever seen a special. And Blackadder is basically about this guy called Lord Blackadder, who throughout different parts of history. My favourite season is the first season, because he's very sort of wacky and zany. He reminds me of Mr. Bean a little bit more. The first season was based in like medieval times, the Tudor times. The second season, he went from the second season onward. He went from being the sort of like high voiced character, the weasel is what they called him, to being more of a renowned Rowan Atkinson, like the more posh Rowan Atkinson, because he had sort of two. I feel like Rowan Atkinson had two sort of personas: the dumb, funny Mr. Bean-esque character, and then obviously the more posh, Johnny English style character. But Blackadder, yeah, season 2. I think season 2 took time in late Victorian times, maybe. I think it was like 1800s or so. That was a great season. Season 3, he played a butler. It's a really good season. I feel like season 3 is so underrated. Such a funny season, because obviously he's the butler, but he's working for the king or the prince, who's really dumb. There's a lot of reoccurring characters in the show with the same names but have different actors playing them and stuff. And then season 4 was the World War I season in the trenches. That's a really good season as well. Such a funny show. I've seen all of the episodes hundreds of times. It's unbelievable. Another one that I wanted to talk about was called Porridge, and this is another example of a show that didn't have that many episodes. I think it had like 12 or 13. Porridge was played by Ronnie Barker. I think it's Ronnie Barker. Yeah, Ronnie Barker. I was going to say Ronnie Nelson. That's Only Fools and Horses. Ronnie Barker, basically, and it's basically based in prison, basically. I know I just said that like 4 times, but it's a prison-based show. It's a comedy similar to Fawlty Towers. It's not as wacky as Fawlty Towers. It has its moments. It's just a funny show, without any too much drama. There are some noticeable characters in the show that were in other shows. Godber, who was in Rising Damp, was in the show. There was also David Jason was in one of the episodes. So, obviously David Jason and Ronnie Barker had a great relationship with Open All Hours. So it's obvious that they were going to be in Porridge in some of the episodes. But it was such a good show. I haven't seen it as much as Only Fools and Horses or Fawlty Towers, but I did enjoy it. And the last sort of British comedy is obviously Mr. Bean. I talked about the animated show in the previous video, but the original Mr. Bean was just a great example of slapstick comedy at its finest. We all talk about old school slapstick comedy with like Laurel and Hardy, and I love me some Laurel and Hardy. and Charlie Chaplin, the silent golden era of comedy. But Mr. Bean was a simple concept, but it was done so well. It was just this guy going about doing things that normal people do. Like goes an episode where he goes to a department store, and there's an episode where he's going to church, going to the beach, shopping, like I said, playing mini golf, and going to the laundromat. It was just a simple concept. This guy trying to live his daily life in this TV show, and nothing ever went right. He would always have these wacky things. He didn't really say much, which is why I talked about that whole that Mr. Bean persona that Rowan Atkinson has. He has a really deep voice. Oh, hello, my name's Bean, and obviously that is what he's most known for, because he portrayed Mr. Bean so well. He's this dumb, oblivious guy to what's happening around him, and it is just such a lovable show. It doesn't have any offensive themes in it. It doesn't push boundaries. It's just a fun comedy show with individual episodes that don't need any in-depthness to it. It's just a show you can put on and laugh your head off at it, because it's just stupid guy doing stupid things. The animated series, like I said, sort of expanded a bit on Mr. Bean's character, and I like that. But again, it still took a lot from the original show, and the original will always go down, in my opinion, as one of the all-time classic comedies. And it's just proof that comedy is a lot visual as well as talking. Nowadays comedy is all based on jokes and swearing and things like that, but without the whole actions comedy, when you watch stand-up comedians, I've seen like Kevin Hart stand-up comedy, and Dave Chappelle, and even like Lee Evans. A lot of comedians have this whole action thing, and that's what I feel like they took a lot of that from Mr. Bean, because actions can make someone laugh. If you're sitting there going, oh my god, people are going to laugh. Where if you say, oh my god, actions, the facial expression, that's comedy. It's all in the expressions of someone. It's all in the movements of people, and the body movements and the actions. And Mr. Bean just perfected the whole action without needing to rely on talking. And he does say a few things, but he normally just said his name and stuff, but that's it. And there was a really cool, I would say, cameo by Trigger from Only Fools and Horses, Roger Lloyd Peck, I think his name was, in one of the episodes. Now we get into my only sort of American comedy show. I will say that I did really enjoy The Office US. I thought it was hilarious. The last few episodes kind of got to me because it got really deep. I didn't feel like it would get that deep, but I wouldn't say it's like a favourite because I've only watched through it once. But I had to put on here Friends. There are other shows like Two and a Half Men, Big Bang Theory, similar shows to Friends, but to me, Friends has always been one of these shows that it did a really good job, because it did mix in some sort of real life elements, and babies being born, adoption, and people injuries and breakups and stuff. And it does have a drama to it, but again, it mixes drama with comedy. It's more of a comedy than a drama, but it's just about 6 friends who live in 2 separate apartments next to each other. Some of the most memorable characters: Ross, Rachel, Monica, Phoebe, Joey, and Chandler. 6 characters. That's all you need. There are some side characters and stuff in the show that are memorable as well, like Janet, I think her name was. And it is a funny show. I really enjoyed Friends because I feel like when I watch like some American sitcoms, I feel like sometimes, especially with more modern stuff, they try too hard with the jokes. and they don't actually try and make a fun show. Friends didn't do that. It had a lot of jokes, but it still had a base set for it. You know, the whole Ross Rachel love scene. You know, Joey going from being, you know, this person that just basically slept with everyone to being more respected. You know, Phoebe and all of these. You know, every character had their own persona, and it was done so well. Friends is always going to go down, in my opinion, as one of the best American sitcoms, and I'm not including obviously some of the older stuff like Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, and oh, by the way, I should have put Fresh Prince of Bel-Air on it. You know, I'll do that next. You know, and obviously there was like Married with Children and Family. I was going to say Family Ties, I think was one. Full House and all that stuff. I haven't seen those shows, so I can't really compare them. But I really enjoyed Friends, and it's a show that I'd definitely go back and watch. I watched it all the way through twice, but again, I've seen countless episodes here and there. Again, you know, I am going to put Fresh Prince of Bel-Air on here. Fresh Prince of Bel-Air was just... you know, it was a sitcom. Obviously, it was based on obviously black people, but I feel like the show was more than just you know, people look at it and go, oh, it's just about black people. You know, we have to like it because it's black people. I feel like Fresh Prince of Bel-Air did a great job of getting some really... There are some amazing moments in Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. It did wonders for Will Smith's career. The whole Will Smith's father leaving him scene, that was real. You know, the whole Uncle Phil going to the jail and basically telling these people, you know, what, you know, getting arrested. It really did go into some civil moments. It really did go into some real life moments, obviously what the people were struggling with at the time, and obviously still are today. And that's why I feel like Fresh Prince of Bel-Air is an important show, because even if you're not a big Will Smith fan, and even if you're not a fan of comedy, watch some of the more in-depth episodes, because they really do have a great sense of message to it. And I feel like Fresh Prince of Bel-Air is a show that did some amazing things, and it's a respected show for a reason. It's funny, it has a lot of comedy to it, but in the episodes that they do go into some in-depth things, obviously Will Smith, when he first comes, he's more, oh, I don't need anything, you know, I'm all funny, I'm this guy. But at the end of the show, he walks out a respected person. You know, he's grown and he's matured, and that's what the show was about. Maturing, about how people change through life and the actions and stuff. Next, I had to put WWE on here. Although I don't watch WWE that much anymore, I still feel like WWE has a big part of my childhood. I've always enjoyed wrestling. It's a show that I put it down as a live action TV show, although it's technically classed as a sport. I say it's more of an entertainment. It mixes obviously sport with live action, and you know, WWE was always a creative show for me. In the early 2000s and mid 2000s is when I really was into WWE, especially through my teenage years and younger childhood years. I just love WWE, and you know, wrestling has always had a special part in my heart because it just has memorable people from it. You know, it's done wonders for the world. You know, very charitable company at times. Although nowadays, you know, we all joke about WWE and say it's shit and all of this stuff. But I look back at some of the classic WWE stuff, Hulk Hogan era, and I just go, wow. You know, that's what when I talk about, when people talk about wrestling, 9 times out of 10, if you say WWE to someone, they're either going to go Stone Cold Attitude Era, where things got really like aggressive and stuff, or they're going to talk about the Hulk Hogan era. Because one thing about like the Hulk Hogan era, Ultimate Warrior, is these people like real life superheroes on screen. They would always be shouting and screaming, "Oh, you're gonna get it, brother!" Shouting and screaming, sweating, getting all pumped up, and it's so funny to go back and watch the old WWE and not in a bad way. It's just such a nostalgia trip for people. It's before my time, but I see the whole concept of people at the time just loved it. And even though yes, it's fake and stuff, who cares? It's a TV show. Get over it. Now we get into some sort of more children, well, teenage stuff. The first one I want to talk about is Drake and Josh. I love Drake and Josh. I couldn't believe it was on Amazon Prime, and the same thing with the next one I'm going to talk about. Drake and Josh, Drake Bell, Josh Peck, Nickelodeon live action TV show. It's basically about these two stepbrothers and obviously their younger sister Megan, always getting into some sort of wacky, zany things going on. And the show did do some in-depth episodes, some sort of real situation episodes. But again, it was that sort of mid-2000 Nickelodeon live-action TV shows trying to compete with Disney shows like That's So Raven and Hannah Montana and stuff like that. But Drake and Josh was just such a fun show to watch. You know, Drake being a more of a, obviously the boy toy everyone wants him, the singer, and Josh being the sort of wacky, dorky guy. But they really come to love each other. You know, they sort of have conflict of interest, but they just have such a great relationship with each other, and it's such a fun show, and it was a big part of my childhood, and I'm definitely going to have to go back and rewatch it at some point. As is the same with iCarly. Now, I'm going to be honest with you, this was more of my brother's thing than mine, but I still remember it being a pretty fun show. Obviously, it had Miranda Cosgrove, who played Megan in Drake and Josh, what was the other guy's name? He played Crazy Steve in Drake and Josh, and he played Megan's like guardian in the show. I said Megan, her name was Carly, but it was basically about these three kids, teenagers, who basically set up a web series in their house and do all of these wacky, crazy, different things. And obviously, it still dealt with the traditional, you know, teenage sitcom drama comedy show, you know, going to school, going out, making friends, love, all that stuff. And it was still, I really enjoyed iCarly. Maybe not as much as Drake and Josh, but you know, there was a really cool crossover moment in one of the iCarly episodes where I think it was like one of the backstage episodes where they were trying to explain how it worked, and then Drake Bell comes in and he's like, "Oh, hey Megan, where's mum and dad?" And I thought that was the best thing in my childhood. I was like, oh my god, my childhood is complete. It was such a funny moment, and to see Drake Bell basically do a crossover, even if it was only for a small moment, it was such a funny thing. Then we have one Disney live action show. I'm going to be honest with you, I weren't really a big Disney fan as a kid. I was more into like I said, more into cartoons. I weren't big on live action shows. Disney shows, like I said, there was like Hannah Montana, That's So Raven. But I really enjoyed Sweet Life of Zack and Cody. And then there was Sweet Life on Deck, which is when they were a bit older. I do remember watching that one, but Sweet Life of Zack and Cody was when they were younger, obviously. Cody and Zach, I can't remember their second names. I know they were like twins and stuff. It was such a fun show. The original season was obviously about them being in a hotel. There was obviously the mean Mr. Mosley, always going off and getting in trouble and stuff. And obviously Sweet Life on Deck was about them going to like college or school on a boat. And that was still a pretty fun series as well. I feel like it was more of a spin-off, but it weren't, because it was technically a continuation of the show. But yeah, that was a fun Disney show. And then the last two I have here are shows that I wouldn't really class as, these are sort of, I say they're documentaries, but Jackass and Dirty Sanchez. Jackass is one of the most over-the-top shows I had ever watched as a kid. I remember watching the movies. It's basically about these bunch of people like Johnny Knoxville, Wee Man, Bam Margera, a lot of ex-skaters and stuff like that. And they just did these crazy stunts. They did some crazy stuff. They would just go over the top, like they'd run naked through the streets, dress up as babies, go kayaking in the park, jump over things. Some of the stunts they did were mental, like going into a bull ring, you know, ice skating, falling over, cutting themselves. It's gross. It was sort of like that MTV era of gross out. Do you remember like when TV was trying to gross things out of slime and stuff. But Jackass, I felt like, really took things beyond our comprehension, and it was absolutely out there. I felt like Jackass was more based on stunts, but Dirty Sanchez, on the other hand, was basically the English version of Jackass. It was based on, well, I think they were like Welsh or something, and there was a warped southerner. And it was, in my opinion, it took Jackass's idea and went beyond that. It was basically just following, this whole show was basically following just four guys trying to live their life, doing crazy stuff, going paintballing naked, lying in the snow naked, always trying to outdo each other. You know, Dayton, Pritchard, Pancho, and I can't remember the other guy's name. There was another one. There was another guy, I can't remember his name. It went on for that long. There were 4 seasons and a movie. And then there was, well, there was a 5th season, but it was basically where Dayton and Pritchard go around the world trying all of these different ways to get high. But it was so crazy, and they did some disgusting stuff that I don't even want to say on YouTube. It is, if you ever get a chance to watch Dirty Sanchez and then watch Jackass, you'll know what I mean. Jackass is more stunt based and obviously had a lot of people around them, a lot of medical stuff and much more high end, whereas Dirty Sanchez was more like just 4 guys trying to outdo each other, doing crazy stuff and living their lives how they wanted to live it, and they didn't take shit from anyone. I'm talking about mutilation, disgusting stuff. Stuff that you'd never want to do in real life, but they did it on this show, and it is unbelievable. But anyway, guys, there we have it today. We're finished off with my live action TV shows. I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, feel free to leave a like. Let me know some of your live action TV show favourites. Tomorrow we'll be doing the movies. Yeah, there's a bunch more movies. I want to wrap this up so I don't have to edit it. And as always, guys, subscribe if you haven't already and join the family. Follow me on Twitter, Instagram and Twitch at The Mad Kyger. I will be streaming Overwatch tonight at 7 PM British Standard Time. And as always, guys, have a nice day, and I will see you in the next video. Take care and bye-bye.